Okay guys, what we're going to be doing today is polishing up this Slotmag. And I'm not saying this is how it should be done or how professionals do it. This is just basically how I've been doing mine for quite a few years. It gives a good result relatively quickly and easily. Like I say, for a car that's driving down the street, they look awesome. If you've got a show car and you want a show-winning finish, then it's probably not the video to watch, to be honest with you. You can get this done professionally, so local to me here, there's someone does it for it's about 60-65 quid a wheel to do the full face, which isn't bad money, but say when you're looking at 250 quid, it's a fair chunk of change. So if that's within your means and you want it quick and easy, then go for it. However, say I do most of mine myself. Funnily enough, the ones on Beefcake were done professionally. I have to say the finish is no better than what we're going to achieve here today anyway. So before you do start doing this, you're going to think to yourself, do you want to end up black bright? And we're not talking, have you had a good day in the garage today, honey? We're talking, what are you doing in my house? Kind of dirty. You're going to be black. You're going to look like a chimney sweep at the end of this. So if that's not what you want to be doing, then again, start saving and have someone do it professionally for you. So to do this, you're going to want some kind of kit to do the polishing with. Now, if you look on eBay or anywhere, Amazon, as I'll link in the description below, you can get kits to do it. So the common kit has 3 mops in it. It comes with a Sisal mop, which is like a hard string mop, which we'll be using most of. It comes with the medium mop. This is a bit more like a cloth or linen mop. I don't tend to use this one, and I'll show you why in a bit. And then we come with the finishing mop, which again, personally, I only use right to the very, very end. So yeah, and that's like a soft cloth mop. Also, you get 3 grades of wax. So you get the hard black one. It's not normally as big as this. And then you get a medium and a fine grade wax as well. Personally, I don't use them. It's kind of, I mean, if you want to go to town and spend ages and ages and ages doing this, then we're talking days doing this. Then go for it. But I find it unnecessary for what I'm doing on the street. So chuck them away. Also comes with a finishing powder. Again, I've never used it, so get rid of that. You can get bigger mops, which is what I tend to go for, because I'd say in the past I used to do a lot of polishing wheels in the side cellar. So I've got a few bigger ones, and eventually they do wear down to quite small mops, but don't throw them away if you do get to this point, because they do well for in the holes and get to small places. So what I personally would recommend is either get the standard size Sisal mop, or go for one of the big boys and just go full out. You tend to find with the bigger mop, because it's spinning a bit faster on the outside edge, it does work a touch faster as well, which is always a good point, but it makes it a little tricky getting inside edges and stuff. And it makes it a bit more aggressive, so it can bite occasionally, and if you're not careful, you damage things. Also, you do tend to go through quite a bit of wax. A standard little block will last you for a set of wheels, more than likely, so I won't worry about it if you plan on doing just the one. But if you want to do more in the future, then I just get a big one, and it lasts. That's lasted me a long time now. In terms of electric tools, obviously you need a drill. I used to buy these drills dead cheap from Wix here in the UK. They were cheap. You used to get 2 for 25 quid, I think it was. I'll be honest, they've lasted a long time. They've done really well, but they're not designed to do what we're going to do with them, really. And eventually you will bugger the bearings in them. So I wouldn't recommend, if you've got expensive drills, using an expensive drill just for that reason, in case you do some damage to it. But say this old beast's done quite a few sets of wheels to get to this point, so they do take out hammering. One thing I would recommend before you start using your drill, get some masking tape, and you want to go around the teeth on the chuck. I guarantee when you first start doing this, even when you've done it a long time, you're going to slip occasionally, and if you put those teeth or the chuck onto the metal, it makes a big mess. It makes a big mess fast as well, and once you've got a chunk out of your rim, it's pretty tricky trying to get it out again without it looking obvious. So yeah, so get some standard masking tape, not masking tape, some standard electrical tape I use, and give it a few layers around there, so once it's tightened up, your teeth aren't going to be biting holes. What you're also going to need for the outer rim, if they are like this one, let's see if I can show you in the camera. So it's minor damage really. nothing too serious. It's got some curb rash on there. Is ideally a small sander, so a mouse sander or detail sander, whatever you want to call it. In a couple of grades of sandpaper, so we'll probably start off with a medium grade, and then before we start polishing we'll just take it down to a fine grade as well. And then once you've got the fine grade on there, it buffs up in literally no time, so you don't need to sand it at all. So I'll make a start and see where we get to, and I'll try and talk you through the process as I'm doing it. Don't forget the boring stuff, guys. Say tinnitus is optional. You need a mask, you really do, because this stuff gets in the air. Glasses, because bits are going to fly off your wheel, I guarantee it. It's off the wheel, but off the mops. And you want to be covered up as best you can, because you're going to get covered. So I always wear a hat. I never take a hat off anyway, as you well know. So the first job I'm going to do is the rim. So I've got the detail sander. I'm using 120 grit because I didn't have any 240, but it'll be fine. I'm going to be really careful to keep it nice and level. Basically, you don't want to be rubbing the inside edge here, so you just want to get that outer edge so it's nice and flat, or as flat as possible, and then possibly give it a slight rounded edge because you've got nicks out the outer edge here. But say, be careful not to damage this part here if you can avoid it. It should polish out so it's not too hard, but it just makes your job a bit harder later. So after the 120 we'll go down to 400. And after the 400 we'll polish, and the polish will take those that from 400 to nice and shiny in absolutely no time at all. Okay, so after the 120 grit, that's kind of what it looks like now. So I've taken most of the damage off. All the way around. There's a couple of places where there's damage that didn't quite come out. If you can see just on the rim here, on the inner part, hopefully that will come out when we start polishing, because it will take it down a little bit further. If not, I might have to come back to that. But reasonably happy with that. So we're just going to change the sand for the paper for 400 grit, just to take off the pattern stripes you can see from sanding. That shouldn't take long at all, and then we'll start polishing. Right, so that's the 400 grit done. It's taken any lines out that the 240 left behind, and that should polish up in no time. So we're going to start now on the polishing. Obviously I can't talk very much when we start doing this because I'll have a mask on. But what the basically plan to do is I'm going to go around the rim quite gently. At the same time, what I'll do is I'll hold the block against the wheel, and what it'll effectively do, it'll lay a track behind the wheel in the black wax. Now I'm not going to film it too much because it does throw wax up, and I don't want to get it all over my screen and all over my lens. But what I do is basically I'll lay a track of black everywhere on the wheel. And then what I'll do is I'll go back over again with the wheel. I press down a bit harder. So you don't have to press down mega hard, but you do want to generate a bit of heat, because as you generate the heat, you find that the wax flows a bit better, and you get a better polishing result. But so you're not looking to do it all in one go. So we're basically going to give it an all over good shine first time round, and then we'll probably do it 1 or 2 more times depending on how it goes from there. So starting to get a layer on there, if the camera's actually picking it up or not. However, I did forget to put tape on my chuck, so I'm going to do that now before I do any damage. Okay, tape on the chuck, let's do some polishing. That's the first pass. As I say, I've not gone to town, not spent a lot of time doing it. There's lots still to go back over and make right. You can see close to where the lip of the rim meet. There's it's not quite got in there, so I have to put some more wax in and stick around there a bit longer. But say, quick first pass over the rim, already looking pretty awesome. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go around the rest of the wheel carefully and do the same thing. Right, so that's the first polishing cycle finished. And this has taken about 40-45 minutes to get to this point. I say I'm going to do it again, probably take the same sort of time again. Now what you find is a lot of people may just think, it's good enough, I'll leave it as it is. And you can do if that's your choice, but what you'll find is when you do it the first time over, it highlights any problems that you may have in the alloy. So if you can see here, I'm not sure if the cameras can see that or not, there's a few little scuffs in the rim. And there's a little nick here as well, which I want to go over and see if I can get that out as well. And actually there's a few bits of marks from the sand in there as well. So I need to go over that rim again, certainly. So I'm going to do the whole thing. You'll probably notice when I'm holding the drill, two hands, I also put it against my belly. And what you'll notice is if I held it against my belly with the two hands and I kind of rock with my hips, it gives you a short range of movement, however it gives you a nice constant pressure and say a steady movement as well. And it just helps support the drill because it's always wanting to go somewhere you don't want it to go and do some damage, and so it just helps hold it in place. When it comes to doing any slots or holes, you always want to be working away from the centre of the hole, away from the centre of the slot. So for example, on this slot here, you'll be working away from it, assuming it's spinning that way around. So running away from the centre, and so you can get all the way around it without aiming at the hole. If you go into the hole, you'll find it's going to want to jump, and you're going to do damage. And so I've done it so many times where it's jumped and I've caught things. It just takes a bit of practice to remember not to do that, to be honest with you. But say always where you can, especially around the centre, where it bites these slightly sharp edges where the bolts go in and stuff. Round two. Okay, we're going to give it a second pass. Again, using the hard Sisal mop. I'm going to take my time this time round, just to make sure I get plenty of warm heat into the metal and the wax, and it spreads nicely. And I take a good bite at the surface. There's lots of little marks I can now see after the first pass, which I want to make sure I get off. And if I do a good enough job with the second pass now, I'm hoping to avoid the third. So the wheel itself is looking pretty good, to be honest with you, for just a first pass. So say hopefully two will be good enough for what I've got planned for this one. You may find there's bits of wax like in areas here where you have an edge, and sometimes it can be a bit stubborn. They don't want to come off again, even when you sit there with the polishing wheel for a while. Don't worry about it. All you need to do is put a little bit more wax on your wheel, and you find it'll come straight off. But you don't have to worry about stuff like that anyway, because that'll come off with the last cleaning, the cleaning process we're going to do last. Okay, so I finished the second pass. Just taking off the wax now. So if you just brush it down with a cloth or a soft cloth, you find the powdery wax comes straight off. And then I personally just use standard Brasso. It takes off any black residue. You probably find you have to put it on once. And say a cloth comes literally off black. Put it on once all over, let it dry, rub it off, and then you give it another once over, and hopefully we'll have a good shine. Now you can, if you want, if you're brave, you can actually put this on your polishing wheel and give it another once over. Done that a few times, does work alright. However, if you think getting black everywhere is bad, you're going to be in the whole world of Brasso hell, because it literally goes everywhere. It just gets flung out the wheel everywhere. So not only does it fling along the wheel, the wheel you're polishing, but also so it'll cover your garage and cover you. But it does work. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. So it's not quite perfect. I spotted a few little niggles here and there, but you know, you're hard pressed to see anything, especially if it's a street-driven car. Say, driving down the street, that look absolutely awesome. I'll go for a closer look. Oops, daisy. So it looks absolutely fantastic. I love a shiny wheel. So the last thing we're going to do now is the slots. So I've been working on the slots. I clean them all out using a Dremel, and I use the standard sanding wheel or sanding belt bits for the Dremel. And what it gives you is that kind of finish. So it's not a perfectly mirrored finish. It is shiny, but it's not a mirrored finish. It's a good kind of textured finish for if you want to be painting a thick coat of. So often the hot rods have like the red slots and stuff in there. Also, I don't think it looks that bad. So I mean, you know, from standing distance, it's not perfect, but it certainly looks respectable. And it's going to get black full of brake dust and stuff anyway, probably. However, I'm going to spend a bit more time. This lot, first of all, give it I think it was about a 120 grit, and then I went down to a 360 or 320 and a 400. So it didn't take too much time to get to that point. We're talking about a 20-minute investment, and that's just on this part here. So I've not done the upside at all. So to do the whole wheel, again, you're looking at a further hour and a half. And then, exactly the same. So, and then for this one, I used the Dremel buffing wheel, as we call them, and again a bit of black wax and some Brasso. So it's not perfect. There's actually a line in there which is really irritating. It's not perfect, but it's a pretty good standard for say a street car. So that's kind of where I'm going to get to with mine. And say you can go the full hog and do the whole way around if you want to do it, or just leave it a bit more like that. Say it takes your choices, I guess. We are nearly there. So I polished all the slots. I'm not really super happy with them, I'll be perfectly honest with you. I could spend another 5 hours doing that just to make them absolutely perfect. But they're good enough for what I want. And the wheel itself, super shiny. I say it again, it's not It's not perfect, it's not probably show standard, but you're going to look pretty impressive rolling down the street with them. I like it a lot. So if you're planning to mirror polish your slots, in hindsight it would have been easier to do most of the sanding work, or the heavy sanding work, before I polished it. I was just so keen, to be honest with you, to start polishing that I kind of neglected that. So yeah, so do most of your polishing, because I did catch the surface a couple of times with sandpaper when I was doing it by hand, which came out literally in a minute with that, but it just avoids any damage. And also your bolt holes just got to finish on this one, the centre, and I'll probably do a better job of clearing the tyre bead weld stuff off. Oh, while you're at it, don't forget to do the outer part here, the thin line around the side of the rim. Depending on what tyre choice you use and width and style of tyre, you often see that, and you don't want that looking rubbish compared to the rest of the rim. Sometimes it's probably an obvious one really, but sometimes it's hard when you're doing the polishing to see where you started and where you're going to, because it all gets covered in black everywhere. So I always work from the tyre valve, and obviously count around 5 times and come back to the tyre valve, so you know you've done a full circuit. Because yeah, if you're OCD like me, for whatever reason, the arbors as well, when the arbors come, it was too long. They're about 1 inch long, too long. So this one's been cut down, you can probably see, and you will also find that it'll start to eat its way through the centre of the wheel. So the hole will start to stretch wider, and the arbor will start screwing through. They do get to a point where the arbor doesn't even tighten on anymore, because they say they get so stretched. Simple solution to that, as you, if you can see on that one, is stick some toilet roll in there, jam it in, and then screw your arbor back in. And that's how a lot of my wheels are now, and it's no issue at all, and they're secure on the end of the drill. In terms of time, been on this one for 4 evenings, I think it is, for a couple of hours minimum each time, so we're a good 8 hours in for this. If you wanted the slots to be bang on perfect, you're probably looking at double. So it really depends on how good a job you want to make of it. When I was doing a lot of Wolfrace Slotmags, at least, the early ones seem to polish up quicker. I don't know why that is, and if it's because they're a softer alloy. It could be magnesium content, I'm not sure. The later ones I think are just aluminium, or a lot higher content aluminium, and they seem a bit harder and take a bit longer to polish. But I say that's just observation, so it might not be true for all wheels. Just the Wolfrace I used to do a lot of. It is kind of soul destroying. Get yourself some earbuds. Sit some drum and bass on or something if you can stand it, because your earbuds are going underneath your ear defenders. So when you're stood just grinding away, it's pretty hard going sometimes to keep motivated. And if you rush it, you'll slip and damage things. You just will. Obviously, now it's done, or done-ish, you're going to want to protect it. Here in the UK, if you're going to be an all-weather driving, or take it out in the salt and the rain, basically, it ain't going to last long. It really will last hardly any time at all in bad weather. I personally, with this one, I just give it a quick auto gleam, so I'll put it on thick and then wipe it off, and I've got, so I like that particular product. I'm not affiliated at all, it's just it's one I like, and it's relatively inexpensive. But you're going to have to repolish your wheel a lot in the bad weather. If it's a fair weather car in the UK, probably get away like my car Beefcake. I polish the wheels 2-3 times a year with a bit of Brasso, a bit of T-cut, a bit of Roto Sol, depending how bad they are, and then I auto gleam polish over the top of them, and it seems to do alright. But I say that rarely goes out in bad weather, or at least I try to keep it indoors when it's bad. I guess if you're in somewhere nice and warm, some states in America and stuff, you might be alright to use them as they are. You can get them professionally clear coated. I have had a set done in the past, and they looked absolutely amazing when they were done. The issue, I'm told, although I've not actually seen this issue, is that because it's now a polished surface, it's not exactly the best surface for any paints to stick to effectively. And before they did them, they did kind of warn me that I may have issues with it coming off. So I never got to use the wheel, so I don't know how they would have performed, to be honest with you. Also, if you damage the surface, you get a bit of a curb rash, or damage the surface at all, you're going to get water underneath the lacquer or the clear coat, and it kind of starts to oxidise, and you get a spider effect, almost like a mould growing under the lacquer. And the only way you can really cure that is to take the lacquer off, and that's an absolute pain in the backside. So yeah, if you've got lacquered, polished wheels, you need to kind of take care of them and stay away from the curbs. Alright, so I think we're more or less done for this one. You'll probably see this video, this wheel come up in a video in a few weeks' time, because I've got a master plan for it when I've finished cleaning the bits and pieces up. But that's it for today. Thanks guys.